It started the night of March 4th, around 2:10 a.m. I was watching a horror movie alone. Funny how ironic that feels. Now and I paused it to get a snack. As I passed the living room window, something in the driveway caught my eye. A man was standing there still, staring straight at the house. My house. He wasn't moving, wasn't doing anything, just smiling. His clothes were normal black hoodie, jeans, maybe 30s. He looked like anyone you'd pass on the street, but that smiled too wide, almost forced. He didn't blink, didn't shuffle his feet, just stood there like he was waiting. I watched him for a full minute. Then, I grabbed my phone and called 911. The dispatcher stayed calm. She asked if he had a weapon. I said no, but something felt seriously wrong. She said officers would be sent out to check. I stayed on the line. 10 minutes passed. Then 20 dots still. The man stood there, grinning up at my window. Then the dispatcher said something I'll never forget. "Ma'am, officers drove by your address just now and didn't see anyone in the driveway." I ran back to the window. He was still there. By the time officers finally arrived, nearly 40 minutes later, the man was gone. I told them everything. They checked my cameras. Problem was, the footage from the front door was glitched, like really glitched. Stuttered frames, weird static, like someone had tampered with it. But I don't have anyone else living here, and I don't even know how to mess with that system. They looked at me like I was just another panicked woman, home alone. Told me it might have been a prank. Someone casing the neighborhood, they said. You're not the first. I could tell they didn't take me seriously. For the next 3 nights, he came back. Always after 2 a.m., always standing in the driveway. And each night, when I called the police, they either didn't see him or didn't come at all. I tried filming him with my phone, but the video would always get corrupted. A few frames would show the street but the man gone. One night, I decided to be brave. I went outside with a bat and screamed at him to leave. I was shaking, trying to seem threatening, but he just smiled wider. Then, slowly, he waved. One long, deliberate wave. I backed away, locked every door and window. I didn't sleep. The next day, I went to the police station in person. They said unless the man broke in or threatened me, there wasn't much they could do. I begged them to at least post someone nearby or run patrols more frequently. They promised they'd keep an eye out. That was a lie. March 12th was the last time I saw the man in the driveway, because on March 13th, he was inside. I woke up at 2:16 a.m. to the sound of whispering, not from outside, but from the hallway. At first, I thought it was the TV. I crept out of bed, heart pounding, and turned the corner slowly. He was standing halfway down the hall, facing me, inside my home. Same black hoodie, same jeans. That same horrifying, stretched smile. I screamed, threw a lamp, and ran to the kitchen. Grabbed a knife, but when I looked back, he was gone. Just gone. No doors opened, no windows smashed. I didn't hear footsteps. It was like he had just blinked out of existence. The police came after I smashed my phone, trying to dial them in panic. This time they saw the broken lamp, the knife, the panic in my eyes. But again, no signs of forced entry. Nothing on the footage. They suggested I talk to someone, as if I'd imagined him. They left. That night I didn't sleep at all. I stayed locked in my bedroom, knife in hand. But something changed. He wasn't in the driveway anymore. Now, he was closer. In my house, in the mirror behind me, in the reflection of the TV, when it was off, always smiling. I moved the next week, didn't tell anyone where, got rid of every electronic, switched cities, burned the hoodie I found in the attic, the one I never bought. The one that smelled like old rain and sour sweat. But even now, every so often, I'll wake up at 2:10 a.m., and the mirror will fog over like someone is breathing on it, and written in the condensation, one word, Smile. The police couldn't help. They still can't, because how do you arrest something that isn't human? How do you stop something that's already inside? I was staying at a cheap motel off Interstate 95 in North Carolina. Midway through a long relocation drive to Florida, the place was called Lakeview Inn. Even though there was no lake anywhere in sight, it was run down, smelled of mildew, but the sheets were clean and the door locked good enough for one night. I checked in around 9:30 p.m. My room was number 210, second floor, just above the lobby. As I walked past the neighboring door room, 209, I noticed it was duct taped shut around the frame, like someone was trying to keep something in rather than out. Weird, but whatever. I figured it was under renovation. The first scream came at 1:17 a.m. It wasn't muffled. It was raw, wet, human. It came from right next door. I shot upright in bed, heart hammering. Another scream followed, high-pitched, terrified, and cut off, like someone had pressed a hand over the person's mouth mid-shriek. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and called the front desk. The night clerk answered like I had just woken him up. "There's screaming from room 209, I hissed. "Someone's being hurt." A long pause. Then he said, slowly, "Sir, there's no one checked into 209. That room is sealed. Has been for years." I demanded he come up. I stood in the hallway with the phone to my ear, staring at the door next to mine. The tape was still intact. Not a sound now. Must have been the TV from below. The clerk muttered, "Room 109 is always watching crime stuff." He hung up before I could protest. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared. Because at 3:03 a.m., I heard knocking on the wall between room 209 and mine. Just soft, rhythmic tapping, like someone trapped was trying to say, "I know you can hear me." The next morning, I went to the police station in the nearby town of Eden. I was dead serious. I played the recordings from my phone, the screams, the knocking. I even showed the duct tape picture. The officer at the front desk looked at me with a tired, practiced smile. "We've had calls about that place before," he said, flipping through an old logbook. "People hearing stuff from that room, seeing shadows move behind the curtains, even though it's been empty. It's just an old building, lots of noise carries." I said someone might be trapped. Maybe the motel staff were hiding something. He chuckled. "You want real advice?" he said. "Get in your car and don't stay there another night." That was it. No officers came with me. No report filed. Just a subtle warning to mind my business. I drove back to the motel anyway, part stubborn, part curious. The hallway was empty, but there was something new on room 209's door. Fingernail scratches. Around the handle, like someone inside had tried clawing their way out. I knocked, no answer. I should have left then, but I couldn't. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just ghost stories or creaky wood. That night, I propped my phone against the wall and hit record, put in earbuds and listened to calming rain sounds to muffle whatever I might hear. At 2:44 a.m., I woke up gasping. The room was ice cold, and on the mirror across from my bed, written in fog from inside the glass, was a single word: help. I left Lakeview Inn at sunrise. I was pale, shaking, sleep-deprived, but I wanted to go back to the cops. Maybe bring in the fire department, anyone who could legally force that door open. But halfway down the road, I stopped at a diner for coffee. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with tired eyes, saw the motel key still on my table. "You stayed at Lakeview?" she asked, eyeing me. I nodded. "Which room?" 210. "Why?" Her lips tightened. "That place used to be decent, until a man rented 209 for 2 months in 2019. Nobody noticed anything. Was wrong until the smell got through the walls. He'd been living in there with 3 women he'd abducted. Kept them chained up. All of them died. One was pregnant." Skin went cold. "The room's been sealed ever since," she added. Locals won't even walk past it. I drove back to the motel. I had to. Room 209's door was open. Not fully, just cracked. The tape shredded. Darkness inside, thick and unmoving. I stepped forward, drawn in by something I'll never be able to explain. The air smelled like rot and rusted metal. As I reached out to push the door open, a hand shot out from the gap. Gray, thin, inhuman. I screamed and stumbled back. The door slammed shut. Loud, violent. The number 209 fell from the frame and landed at my feet. The front desk was empty. No one answered the bell. I ran. The police. They laughed, said no one had access to that room. The motel's been closed since April 4 renovations, but I drove by 2 nights ago. Lights were on in room 209, and the figure standing in the window. It smiled at me. Don't trust buildings that pretend to be abandoned. Don't trust silence when the screams have stopped. And most of all, don't trust the police to help you when it's something that doesn't belong in this world. Because some doors, once opened, never truly close. It all started after I bought this old duplex in Northwest Ohio. I was 27. Finally got approved for a home loan, and the price was so good it felt criminal. The seller was a widow who didn't say much, except that she just needed to get out of the house. I should have listened to my instincts when I noticed the crawlspace door in the basement was nailed shut. I asked about it, and the realtor chuckled, said, "Oh, just old Midwest superstition. They used to seal off unused spaces to keep spirits out." It didn't feel like a joke. I didn't open it, not at first. I figured I'd wait until I had the place settled, but about 2 weeks after moving in, I started hearing scratching from beneath the floorboards at night. I thought rats or raccoons. But then it turned into something worse, crying, small, muffled sobs, like a child, every night, between 2 and 3 a.m. I put my phone near a vent to record it. When I played it back, the next morning, my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't a child crying. It was a girl, whispering over and over, "Let me out. Let me out. Let me out." Asterisk, I called the police the next day. I played the audio and showed them the sealed crawl space. 2 officers came over. One, a younger guy, took it seriously and went down to the basement with me. The other stayed upstairs and kept checking his phone like he was bored. The crawlspace door was still nailed shut, but now there were fingerprints on the inside of the wood. Not dusty, old marks fresh. Smeared prints, tiny, like a child's. The younger cop stepped back and said, "I'm not going in there. That's something for animal control or, I dunno, social services." The older one shrugged. "Ma'am, you said you haven't seen anyone, right? No signs of forced entry." "I have video," I insisted. "Last night, I recorded the hallway and look." I pulled out my phone. Shaking dot. I showed them the clip. At exactly 2:37 a.m., my hallway light flickered on by itself. Then, something crawled out from under the wall, a pale girl, with tangled black hair and no eyes, just wet sockets. She looked straight into the camera and mouthed, "Why didn't you help me?" The officers exchanged looks. The older one laughed. "You trying to make a viral TikTok or something?" I felt sick. "I need help. There's something in the house. I think someone died in there." He sighed. "There's nothing we can do if there's no living person involved." Then they left. That night, I didn't sleep, because at 3:12 a.m., I woke up to find muddy footprints on the floor, leading from the basement door to my bedroom. Asterisk, I boarded up the crawl space myself the next day, hammered it shut, screwed in a padlock, anything to stop whatever was trying to get through. But that night, I didn't hear crying. I heard laughter, high-pitched, wet, unnatural laughter from behind the walls, as if the house itself was mocking me. Then came the smell like something rotting in the pipes. I tried pouring bleach down every drain, but it made no difference. That's when I did something desperate. I posted the hallway video online. Within hours, it went viral. Thousands of comments, but one stood out. From a woman named Cassandra J., who lived just one town over. She said, "I lived there in 1998. My little sister disappeared in that house. Police said she ran away. But she used to cry from the crawl space too. They never believed me, either. I reached out to her. She refused to come back, but she sent one message before blocking me. She doesn't want out. She wants you to come." In that night, I fell asleep with all the lights on. At 2:55 a.m., my phone vibrated with a video notification from my own security app. The footage showed the basement door slowly creaking open, then, ... Something crawled up the stairs. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. Frozen, like something was holding me down. Then I saw her. She stood at the edge of my bed, wet hair dripping, fingers twitching, mouth torn open in a grotesque grin. She whispered, "They don't help. They never help. Now you stay with me." The police came the next morning after a neighbor called in a noise complaint. They found my door open, the place trashed, but no sign of me. Just deep scratches in the floor, leading back to the crawl space. It was open when they got there. They sealed the house. "Off again," said the new tenant. Must have lost it. Another crazy person imagining ghosts. But if you find a phone at the bottom of that crawl space, ... check the video folder and listen for my voice whispering. Don't trust the police. They left me here too. I moved into an old converted townhouse in Pittsburgh last fall after my divorce. The building had 3 apartments, mine on the main floor, an older couple upstairs, and the basement apartment, which was listed as vacant on the lease. The landlord said he used it for storage, but within a week of moving in, I knew that wasn't true. It started with the sound, soft movements late at night, coughing, sometimes even what sounded like pacing. I assumed maybe the landlord was keeping someone down there illegally. Still, I was exhausted and emotionally wrecked. I didn't want drama, just peace. Then I started waking up with the feeling of being watched. One night, I found my hallway closet door open at 3 a.m. Another time, my bedroom light flicked on while I was asleep. I lived alone. One night around 2 a.m., I heard something unmistakable, knocking, from beneath the floorboards. Directly under my bed, I followed the noise through the hallway and down to the basement door, which was padlocked from my side. I knelt and listened. Footsteps, a dry, shuffling kind. I knocked back, silence, then a voice, male, old horse, whispering. He said, "You don't belong here." Neither did she. I jumped back so fast I hit my head on the banister. I called the police right away. They came 20 minutes later. I explained everything, how the landlord claimed it was empty, how I heard voices, how I feared someone was living in the basement. They checked. The padlock was intact. The police used bolt cutters, went down with flashlights, and came back up. 5 minutes later, "Nothing down there," one of them said, shrugging. "Just some boxes, paint cans, and an old furnace. No signs of forced entry. Probably the house settling." I asked them to file a report. They didn't. They left me alone in the house with whatever was beneath my floor. After the cops dismissed me. I begged the landlord to check the basement with me in daylight. He agreed, reluctantly. The place was mostly empty, except for a massive, ancient furnace with metal doors that looked like they hadn't opened in years. There was also a sealed-off crawl space behind a boarded wall. The air smelled of old metal and something else I couldn't place, like rot and sulfur. I asked who used to live there before. He looked at me carefully and said, "No one's rented it in 5 years. The last tenant disappeared. Police never found her." He said it like a man trying to forget. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing dragging sounds inside the walls, like someone pulling themselves through ductwork. I opened every vent in the house, and finally found one in the hallway that looked off. It rattled when I touched it. Inside was something small, wrapped in fabric. I pulled it out with kitchen tongs. A bundle of human teeth. Tiny, like a woman's. I threw up in the sink. Then I took pictures, called the police again, and showed them everything. When they came, they didn't even enter the house. They stood on the porch like they were afraid to come in. You find anything else? You can bring it to the station, the officer said. But without a body or ID, there's nothing we can do. You probably found an old dental kit, maybe from a tenant. They left no report. Again, I slept with a knife that night, but I still woke up with scratches on my arms. Thin, long ones, like fingernails. My bedroom door had been opened from the inside. Asterisk by the third week, I was unraveling. I barely ate. Didn't work. I stayed up all night and tried to sleep when the sun came up. I bought motion sensors and installed them around the basement door. One night, at 3:21 a.m., they triggered. I checked the footage. The basement door opened on its own. There was no one there. No breeze, just the door. Swinging open, slowly, I played the video frame by frame, and in one single still, I saw it. A man's face, in the furnace reflection, gaunt, white, hairless. His mouth twisted in a smile, too wide for a human skull. I printed the image, and brought it to the police station myself. They looked at it, then at me, and asked if I was seeing a therapist. I told them I wasn't crazy. I wasn't asking them to believe in ghosts. I was asking them to check. Someone used to live there. Someone is still in the house. The young female officer glanced at the picture again. Her face dropped. She pulled me aside and whispered, "We used to get calls about that house. Always, at night. People hearing things in the vents, losing pets, finding things in their showers." "What things?" I asked. She hesitated. "A baby shoe, teeth, bloody washcloths." I begged her to help. She leaned in and said something I'll never forget. "You need to leave. Don't wait for help. We can't stop what's down there." I left that night, never went back. 2 weeks later, I saw on the local news that the house had caught fire. The entire basement collapsed. No official cause listed, but in the report, there was one line that chilled me. Greater than authorities discovered charred remains of a human jawbone inside the furnace unit. Female, age estimated to be between 20 and 30. The landlord swore the unit was never rented. The cops didn't follow up. No arrests, no records, no justice, just silence. But I still have that photo, the face in the furnace. And sometimes, when I look at it in the dark, the reflection behind me shifts. He's still watching. He's still waiting. I live in a small apartment complex just outside Mississauga. It's nothing fancy, thin walls, an old elevator that creaks like it's carrying ghosts, and a manager named Greg who always smells like burnt coffee. I moved in this past February, trying to save money while finishing nursing school. The place had its issues, sure, but I didn't expect to fear for my life inside my own unit. It started one Thursday night, around 2:40 a.m. I was alone, scrolling through my phone in bed, when I heard footsteps in my hallway, not from the neighbors, inside my apartment. My heart jumped. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept by my bed and crept toward the hall. The footsteps had stopped. I flipped on the light dot. Nothing. Every door was still locked. My windows were sealed shut. I checked under the bed, in the closets. All clear. I chalked it up to nerves. Stress. Maybe the neighbors upstairs. I went back to bed. Then the bathroom sink turned on. Full blast. I ran in. The lights were already flickering. The mirror was fogged up like someone had just taken a shower. I hadn't even used the bathroom in hours. There was something written in the fog. I'm already inside. The next night, it got worse. At 3:07 a.m., I woke up to the sound of someone knocking from inside my closet. Not a creak, not the building settling, knuckles on wood, repeating. I panicked and called 911 immediately. Shaking, I whispered that someone had broken into my apartment, that they were hiding inside. The dispatcher, a calm woman named Diane, kept her voice steady. "Ma'am, we already have officers at your address. Are you safe?" My blood ran cold. "No, no one's here yet. I'm alone." A pause. "I'm showing unit to be correct?" she asked. "Yes." Another long pause. Then she said something that I'll never forget. "But someone just radioed in from inside your apartment. They said you were safe, that you overreacted." I started crying. "I didn't say that. I never said that." She lowered her voice. "Ma'am, stay on the line. Officers are on their way. Do not open the door unless you hear the passcode." "What passcode?" "The one I just gave you." "Red feather." "Repeat it back." "Red feather," I whispered. Then I heard my door unlock. I never unlocked it. I tiptoed to my bedroom door. The chain on the front door had been cut off, cleanly, as if with bolt cutters. A man in a police uniform stood in my living room, hat down, face hidden. He turned slowly and said, in my voice, "Red feather." Asterisk. I ran out the fire escape, barefoot. Didn't care. I banged on my neighbor's door. She let me in. I called 911 again and got a different dispatcher. I gave them everything description, my unit, everything. They arrived 10 minutes later. Real officers this time. They found my door damaged. The closet door open, the mirror still fogged with condensation, but the writing was gone. My neighbor backed up my story about me screaming and running out. The cops filed a report, but the man was gone. No sign of forced entry. No fingerprints. Nothing. I moved into a hotel the next day. The landlord was sympathetic. Said it wasn't the first time someone reported something weird in 2B. That shook me. I went to the police station to follow up on the report. The officer at the desk looked me up. "There's no active file on that case, ma'am." "What?" I spoke to 2 officers. I showed them my broken chain. He typed again. "Nothing on file. And there's no officer in this division named Diane." He slid a piece of paper across the counter. "Are you sure you called this number?" It was a 911 line from Hamilton, nearly 50 kilometers away. I never dialed that. I had it saved. I showed him my call log. It was blank. No outgoing calls the night it all happened. No proof I ever called anyone. That was 3 weeks ago. I still don't sleep, and every night, just past 3 a.m., I hear the sink turn on in the hotel bathroom this morning. The mirror said, "You never left."